The NFL stands for not for long.
Set, Sharga and Armstead. Roll out, Walker still running out. Looks to the left, wide open, Thompson touchdown. Colin Thompson with the touchdown. There was nobody within 20 yards.
What a catch off the bobble. Colin Thompson scoops it up.
Lofting corner, the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown. The first NFL touch for Colin Thompson is a score.
All right, Jack, we're live.
You got
Appreciate everybody tuning in to we're live. Great work, man. Thanks to everybody tuning into the Colin Thompson Show, presented by Not For Long Media and our friends over at the original Fudge Kitchen. They ship fudge and sweet treats across the country. Jack in the back, how you doing today, pal?
Doing good. Just moving and shaking. Just reaching the end of the week here, so just getting things done.
The week flew by. It doesn't really feel like a real week. People are in first gear, I feel as if. Maybe not for you because you're actually working, but the rest of us who are like piecing work together and we're coming down from the Christmas hangover, if you will, from, hanging with family to some drinks, to some good eats, to some good times. How was your Christmas, buddy?
It was good. Hung around family a little bit, just kind of kept it close around here. Food was great. Nothing really. It was good. It was good. How was yours?
All right. So it sounds like a boring time. I was anticipating some more juice, some drama about your tractor or the squirrels on your roof or something like that, but that's okay. We moved forward. It was great, man. I had some great family in town. Some friends came over. We ate. We had a great time. Did some Christmas shopping. Went to some local pubs and saw some great friends. So it's weird. I haven't been home for Christmas since 2015. So, I get to the point in a professional career where you just get sick of missing stuff, from funerals to birthdays to holidays. It's a part of the sacrifice. It's a part of the reaching the mountaintop of your profession in any profession. But it gets old after a while. I'd rather be in the NFL, but, second place is spending time with family and friends, doing stuff I haven't done in a while. So, yeah, great to be back. Great to be back. We're obviously live here on Instagram. We're live across our social media platforms and Not For Long Media, my personal Facebook, LinkedIn, a bunch of different stuff here. And as we're trying some new things out for 2024, we're going to have awesome guests on today. Rasheed Bailey, CFL Grey Cup champion 2 times, played for the Eagles, played for the Carolina Panthers, Del Val College, Division III school in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And he has a show with us called Showtime Speaks. He's getting that charge back up again. So I wanted to have him on, talk about the Eagles, the NFL, his journey a little bit, his new show. And then Jason Myrtetuts, who has one of the most successful hockey podcasts in the world with Flyers Daily. For those hockey fans, in about 40 minutes, we're going to be getting into hockey here. I wanted to mix it up a little bit and have a little football, have a little hockey. It's kind of my wheelhouse. So Jason's coming on and talk of that. The Flyers are red hot this year, and they were supposed to be horrible. So we're going to start off with the NFL, though. Again, everything we do here is brought to you by Fudge Kitchen. They ship fudge and sweet treats across the country, fudgekitchens.com. Jack, let's start with some playoff picture. Pull that up for us here. There's a lot to unpack. And, as you can see on your screen here, and for those that are listening, in the AFC, the Ravens and Dolphins are the 2 teams to clinch so far. Niners, Eagles, Lions, and Cowboys have clinched on the NFC side. But what I like to do, Jack, is kind of start down the bottom. So you scroll. Perfect. Don't go to those teams that are in the hunt. Let's go to those bubble teams. And I'll start on the AFC because the storylines there are just absolutely ridiculous. This Texans team with C.J. Stroud, if he can come back and move and shake and find his way into the playoffs here, he puts himself right back in the middle, if not the leader of the Rookie of the Year player, at least Offensive Rookie of the Year, him and Nakua. And, a Coach of the Year situation down there with D'Amico Ryans and a team that we thought had no juice left in the tank. Obviously, you thought the same thing about the Bengals, who, lost a starting quarterback, but have gone on a run here with Browning. Steelers beat them last week in really blowout fashion. What are they going to be week to week? The Raiders team, where we don't know what they're going to be either. And then they looked fantastic and beat the Chiefs, primetime Christmas Day game, a game that I think had more viewership than every NBA game combined. What are your thoughts on that, Jack, as the NBA defender on this team?
Listen, it makes sense. I'm not really shocked. The NBA games were not that good to begin with anyways. The marquee, I think it was literally the prime time Christmas game was Sixers Heat, and Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler both sat out of the game. So neither of them
Little load
played.
management, Jack. Little load
Well,
management.
no, I mean, for Jimmy Butler probably, but Embiid did sprain his ankle. He missed last night against Orlando. He might miss their next game, so he has a legitimate injury. But I mean, like most Americans, he's just spending the time between Christmas Eve and New Year's Day off. So he's a working man.
Working man. Yeah, working man. All right. Good for him in the NBA. And then obviously, I hope Antonio Pierce gets the job with the Raiders. I've heard from some people in that building that absolutely love him, and you could see the passion they play for, and be really cool to see an interim head coach that does well get the job. I was with Coach Wilkes last year in Carolina, and you thought he had a legit shot to get the job in Carolina. It was not the case, but the momentum around him moving forward and the post-coach rule was awesome, and it would have been really interesting to see what he would have to do if he's still in Carolina today. Happy for Taves down in Carolina. They had a win 2 weeks ago against Atlanta in a walk-off fashion, and then they gave the Packers everything they could handle, losing 33-30 in a really crazy game there. And then obviously the Broncos, a lot of drama there. What's going on with Russ, right? And and you see the debates today. Is he a Hall of Famer? Is he not a Hall of Famer? Does this taint his Hall of Fame career? We'll see. He's going to get an opportunity. He will. What he does with that, to me, matters. The Vikings, Jaron Hall. I was with Jaron Hall. He's going to be the starter this week for the Vikings. A lot of people don't know who he is. He was the quarterback that came in behind Luke Wilson at BYU. Zach Wilson, excuse me. He's a runner. He's a thrower. He's an undersized guy, but he's super mature. This is a guy that went on a mission and then came back, in Mormon fashion to school at like 25, 26 years old, and has had a ton of success, as a college player, just kind of same play style as Zach Wilson, a little loosey-goosey, huge arm, but I love his maturity level. That was the one thing that stood out to me in the huddle. So he's going to have the respect of those guys in that huddle here. This isn't some random rookie coming in who's 21 years old who hasn't played in big moments before. So I like his game. And if the Vikings can find their way into the playoffs here with what they have going on with the quarterback situation, I think Kevin O'Connell should be up for Coach of the Year. I know Kevin Stefanski probably has something to say about that with bringing in Joe Flacco to the Browns and their success. But, man, losing Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins in two massive, massive moments of your season when I think they were 1-4 or 1-5, and to get back right around 500, super, super impressive. All right, Jack, scroll up here. These teams that have a little bit chance of making the playoffs as we move forward. We'll start, again, in the AFC. This Colts team with Shane Steichen. I mean, pretty impressive. And you could see that his loss, the impact in Philly offensively, right? They're running the same plays, the same scheme. It's never the same offense, though, and it's been a huge impact there. And Gardner Minshew and company in the Colts, after losing their star quarterback, who Jack thought was going to stay upright and play the whole year, find themselves in the playoffs. What are your thoughts on that, Jack?
They're a really impressive team. I mean, I've always liked Shane Steichen's offense when he was in Philadelphia, and it's great to see Gardner Minshew. I mean, everybody talks about Baker and Tampa Bay, but it's really great to see Gardner kind of just solidify himself as a guy for the next 10 plus years as a backup, glue guy, whatever. He's in that Ryan Fitzpatrick category for the rest of his career. I mean, like I said, you're 8-7. Anthony Richardson went out like week 2, week 3, and you're putting this together. I mean, Jonathan Taylor didn't come back till like week 9, whatever that was, mid-season, and you're still doing this production. Their offense, I mean, the talent in this offense it's all right. Like, Michael Pittman's a solid dude. Alec Pierce is a little young, but he's got it. And you're still putting these types of games together on offense. It's really impressive.
It is. And speaking about consistently offensively, I know defense, they made some big plays too. Their front four, their front seven has done some nice job. Zaire Franklin, Philly guy from LaSalle, from Syracuse, a late round pick, a special teamer, special teams captain, now defensive captain. The guy's a stud there. They've done a great job there. Buffalo, a team that we talked about on here with Joe Brady, and I was pounding the table for Joe because I think Joe's learned a ton from some really tough, smart coaches that are like run football first people, which is Sean Payton and Matt Rule. And I think Joe has learned and changed and evolved and then developed a personal relationship with Josh Allen being the quarterback coach, now becoming the coordinator. Like, that mix to me sounds really, really good. Like, Buffalo over the last few years, the end of every year, you're like, man, I would text my agents, be like, hey, they need a blocking tight end. Like, that's what I do for those tuning in and getting to know me for the first time. I'm like, Buffalo's got to be transitioned to a more physical run game. They got to be. Reach out, do something. And, now they are using an extra offensive lineman in the run game. They're pulling Deion Dawkins in the run game when other teams pull blocking tight ends and doing that stuff and having tons and tons of success because of what they have on the outside. And you make the same argument for the Eagles. Like, what they have on the outside should scare you enough to be able to run the ball on a consistent basis to a lighter box with safety not involved, backers not subbed into the game, smaller people on the field. So you're seeing that now from Buffalo. That's why they've had success. We all know the Browns and the story with Joe Flacco, and that's been amazing. And it's funny, last night, Christmas Eve, we're at the Plumsteadville pub hanging out, tradition we always do, and go see kind of the local folks celebrating Christmas. And I look at my brother-in-law, and I was like, man, Amari Cooper's so underrated. I put my head down, we conversation, have a good time. I look up at his stat line just like an hour later. It was like some sort of ridiculous stat line. I just think that guy is one of the most underrated players in the league. The guy was nasty in Alabama, pure nastiness. Him and Julio are like my favorite two college wideouts in the world. Larry Fitzgerald, obviously, too. But, yeah, really excited for what the Browns are doing. P.J. Walker gets elevated from the practice squad this week. He'll be the backup there behind Joe Flacco. Then you got the Jags and the Chiefs. So I think the story for me are these teams that are in the hunt, if you will, or whatever these terms are, close to being in the playoffs, close to clinching, are the Bucs in the NFC South. I played in the NFC South. I played the Bucs. First real true NFL game was at the Bucs. I played XFL games in that stadium. I know that place well, Raymond James. And it's a great place to play. And, you could scroll it up, Jack, but I'm going to finish with the Bucs here. What Baker Mayfield's doing is nothing short of just impressive, right? This guy last year started the year with Carolina. He pried his way out of Cleveland because they signed Deshaun Watson and they didn't want Baker. He goes to Carolina, where I was at, competes against Sam Darnold, wins the job, loses the job, gets hurt, you name it. We, fired Coach Rule. We traded C-Mac, and then Baker, out of nowhere, I'm just like in the hallway, we're walking to a lift or whatever. He's like, love you, buddy. I'm out of here. I'm like, what? I think that's how the story went. There was so much chaos last year. I wrote so much stuff down. I got to check my notes, but I remember it just being so spontaneous. Like, Baker's gone. What is happening? Like, all my boys, like my friends on the team, like I get it from the outside world. They're like, yeah, see ya, buddy. But like, I don't know. This guy was like Pro Bowl type quarterback that we brought in to win, and it didn't work. And it was like really tough times in Carolina. And all he's done after going to the Rams and not knowing where he'd be this offseason, and all the goofballs on social media posting videos from OTAs of them working routes, and he sails a ball over a guy's head. Like, you think that doesn't happen normally? It's normal football. You need to practice. It's tough. And you can't just roll the ball to the park with your boys and practice football. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. That's why it's the hardest sport in the world. You need 22 people. You need film. You need coaches. You need headsets. So kudos to what Baker's done in Tampa. I was watching Colin Cowherd today. I love his work. And he had like Baker versus these blank question mark quarterback faces. And like, he had better numbers than Tom Brady in 22 right now. He's got better numbers than Stafford and Josh Allen this season. He didn't give the ball away. 27 TDs, 8 interceptions. I mean, it's awesome. And I hope he signs a mega deal. Or for him, like, how's it work? Do you take like a pay cut a little bit and you stay in Tampa, or you get a mega deal from Tampa or whatever? Because you got to secure those good players around him. You got to find a way to pay Mike Evans and bring him in and those things at the good wideout position, because they have a ton of talent down there at the wideout position. They have young tight ends that are growing. It's a great place to play in Tampa. They have grass field, beautiful weather, no state income tax, great airport, all these little things that people don't think about, players that are free agents that have to make these tough decisions. It comes down to underrated thing is when you land in Tampa, you're right next to the facility, you're right next to the stadium, or when you're an away team in Tampa, you're like 5-minute drive to take off out of the airport. That's a big deal. Not every stadium's like that. All right, Jack, we got one of our first guests here, and I'm going to get into these NFC playoff picture with him. Rasheed Bailey, absolute stud. Showtime Speaks, his awesome podcast with us that he's kind of rebooting, relaunching with us here at Not For Long Media. CFL, NFL, Del Val. We're just so jacked to have him on. I think Rasheed's working on his camera and his mic here. When he pops up here, Jack will bring him in. But Rasheed's always, been a friend of mine, someone I admire from afar. someone trying to make it in this league from a Division III level, to the top of this profession. A great route runner, extreme toughness, did a little bit of everything and more for, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers these last 3 seasons. Won 2 Grey Cups. They lost this past season. And, as him and I have a lot of great talks as veterans, trying to figure out kind of what's next in this world. Sheed has, kind of like me, trying to figure out ways to make things go. And he's got a podcast, and he's joining us right now as he's shutting the door and running around and getting moving and grooving. Sheed, what's going on, man? How we doing?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
What's going on? I got you loud and clear. How we doing?
What's good, man?
What's up, man? What are you up to?
I haven't did this setup in a long time, so bear with me.
It looks great, dude. You're doing great. Back from the CFL.
Yeah.
Back to Philly.
Back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm ready. My bad.
Ready? Talk to me.
I know it's live. I'm sorry. My phone.
You're doing great. I don't care.
Man.
I don't care. The phone's buzzing. You're doing great. You're a media professional trying to make it work. I appreciate you jumping on the show. I want to jump right in on the Eagles though, because I don't know what it is. To me, I think they've graduated from the spread. I think they need to get under center, play action pass, allow Jalen to get the ball in people's hands quickly. A lot of indecisiveness with what are they running? What are they doing? I watch the Niners. I think they can run a million different plays from a million different formations. I have no idea what they're doing. They got people in motion. They're shifting. They got backs. They got tight ends. They got wideouts that you may not even know their name, and these guys are Pro Bowlers. When I watch the Eagles, I see very college spread. Hey, it's just this coverage. We're pumping it to this guy. It's this look. We're handing the ball off. I like it. It's successful. It has worked. They got to a Super Bowl. They've had a ton of success. Jalen got paid a ton, highest paid player in NFL history at that point of time. He deserves it. But it's not working anymore, and that's okay. Offenses change all the time. I think they got to graduate and become more like the Niners, Vikings, Dolphins, and allow Jalen to distribute instead of put it all on his shoulders. As a guy who's played wide out in professional football, CFL, you played in so many different offense. What's the answer to the Eagles offense? What's the riddle?
Whew, man, it's a lot to unpack. I really do agree with you when it comes to they need to get more under center. They need to get more. They got a lot going on, but they've had success though. It kind of reminds me of, us in Winnipeg where we've had success. We've won 2 back-to-back Grey Cups. I think you just need to do like minor tweaks and do things a little bit different. Like you said, the play action stuff works. I did see they hit Goddard last week on it was like we call it, what we call it, a pylon route or something like that, where they hit him.
It's like a Seattle.
Exactly, but it was the first play action under center that I've seen in probably a long time, but it was successful. I think that they need to get back to doing traditional things. I think it'll help them. I think everybody's screaming right now to run the ball. I think, they have a great back and Swift and what he's doing well. I really like Swift. He is the epitome of what a Philly running back is predicated as. You know what I'm saying? Like he got that dog up in him. He got that energy that I love, man. I'm always cheering from the sideline, just enjoying the process of watching him tote the rock. When you talk about running backs from Philly, man, it's a long list of guys who are from Philly that never even made it. I can go down a list of all the names of all the running backs, and he represents all those guys. And, to see him, in that limelight, to see him doing what he's doing, man, I think he needs to touch that rock a little bit more. But, he's had some injury stuff in the past and stuff like that kind of like they're trying to protect, that I understand.
Yeah.
But,
they're going to feed it to him now, though. I think.
Oh, it's time.
It's time. But you know what? The thing about this, G, where people in Philly are uncomfortable, right? Because they're not doing well.
Yeah.
But none of it matters. They clinch the playoff spot. I know it's not ideal, but like you got to look at it as a glass half full. Like you're in that building, you start to see players get irritated. You're starting to see guys a little frustrated. But it's like it is what it is. You got to go out and ball. It's week to week league, and you're in the playoffs. You got to go.
I think I just seen something that was very important that I saw Jason Kelsey say this. He said, I think it came up on WRP that it's important for guys to let it all out, to voice to voice it, to use your voice. I think that when it comes to pro sports and how people analyze the game and they break it down and say we need to do this differently, we need to do that differently, but there's a thing called communication within an organization and within the offense, within, the meeting room, within all of that stuff that could be, on the brink of like there's something going on or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
I've experienced, especially with me this past season, where I felt like the communication level, it just wasn't where it needed to be. And this is how it works in a lot of professional sports. You get a player who speaks this language, you get a coach who speaks this language, you get a quarterback who speaks this language, and you got different languages that are all trying to mesh into one. And I think that you can kind of see what's kind of going on. And, like, bro, these people are human. I think that nobody is mentioning that all of these players, you see, AJ Brown, his frustration, him not wanting to talk to, the media and stuff like that. Man, what if he's going through something personally? What if he's battling an injury that it's like there's a lot of different things that could be possibly going on that, to be honest, it's nobody's business. Like, and how teams function and being in pro sports, the outside noise doesn't really matter. They just need to focus on from within and get things kind of fixed up and tweaked up and communicate better. And I think once they do that, I think things will be smooth sailing with them. Like you just said, they're in a good position. All they need to do right now is get hot going into the playoffs, and anything can happen.
No question. No question. Really well said. I think with any team, right, you talked about the communication level. Just like any bit of work, guys, I say football locker room is just a microcosm of society. They're a better microcosm of society because we can talk about a lot of things, politics, race, religion, open-minded, and 99% of the guys are saying it there with an open and warm heart, just asking loving questions. Where in the outside world, you don't know where people are coming from. You can't have those conversations with even some of your friends or family because there's so much. But I love the locker room for that reason. I miss it for that reason. But it was funny. I was in Minnesota, and Angelico, our tight end coach there, was just saying, like, guys, hold me accountable to speaking in the language of our offensive terminology, because he's been so many places.
Yes.
Right. And you're like, hey, it's this route. I'm like, no, it's a diagonal. It's not a cross or whatever. So, and that's the minute versions of it.
Yes.
But it's like that on any scale, even in a professional level. And even for you, like, have you had the same coordinators in Winnipeg the whole time?
So we switched. The guy who we had, the guy who was like the head of all of it, wound up leaving and taking a head coach job somewhere. So the QB coach stepped up and took the offensive coordinator job. But the language started to change, the verbiage and what we wanted. He kept it the same. He kept it the same, but we added so much more. And the verbiage of what the QB liked, we brung more of that in, or hots, or different sites, or different things that we wanted. But we all kind of like got to a point where we started to speak the same language in a way. But it can get it's a iffy thing if, all right, the QB wants something, but the receiver coach don't know about it. So, like, let's say we're sitting in the office and we're going over the plays, or we're going over what we just did, during the week. Well, the QB wanted it this way, but the receiver coach didn't know. So that's what I mean by, like, sometimes the level of communication and the verbiage kind of can get it can get misunderstood. So, like, when we talking ball, like, man, it could be a number of different things, man. At the end of the day, they're a team that's still trying to figure out. They know who they are, but they're still trying to figure it out. And I think that's life. Football is life. Football is, it's not supposed to be perfect. You look at all these teams around the league, you can only look at maybe a couple of teams that are looking like they flawless, but it's coming down to the stretch. Dallas just lost. 49ers just lost. Like, Eagles, to be honest, in my opinion, lost at the right time.
They did. The right people. Because they're right in it.
They're still in it.
They're right in it.
And people need to slow down and calm down.
I'll say this, though. You know what, man? And we're going to get to Carolina here in a little bit because I know you played there. I was in Carolina the 2021 year. I think we started that year hot. We were 3-0. I think Sam Darnold led the NFL in rushing touchdowns. We had guys balling out. Year before, we had like 5 guys with 1,000 yards all-purpose yards. C-Mac was healthy.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold was really slinging it. It was exciting times. We ended up going on a big skid, I think, to lose that year. I think 6 or 7 straight. And the Panthers fans didn't boo us till like, I don't know, 6 games in. We had guys that are a lot, like 6 games into the losing streak. And I love Panthers fans. We have some listening right now. But like, there's only so many of them. Like in Philly, in these big markets, like you're getting booed after one bad series. We got booed at Temple for a 3-and-out against Tulane. I'll never forget it. And Coach Rule brought us up.
Yeah.
And he's like, listen to these people.
Yeah.
These same people were cheering you on against Notre Dame and Penn State. They had no problem with it. But you had a little 3-and-out against Tulane, like everybody. And here you are, sputtering. But that's the nature of the beast. I love my time in Carolina. Great people. Great city. The Love Out Stadium was uptown. You played with some amazing players there. One guy I know had a huge impact on you, and many was Cam Newton. Cam has been all over the media this week, different opinions, different things going on, which I love.
I love it,
and
too.
It's funny how people question Cam.
Yeah.
It's so polarizing. But it's like, wait, we got a Hall of Famer, maybe the best football player of all time. I don't know if he can be a Hall of Famer or not, but probably one of the best pound-for-pound football players ever, given their opinion. People question it and get personal, and I think opinions, some things you agree with, some things you don't. But just talk about Cam, like, what was it like? Bring the outside world into that man, because when I was with him, other than Eli Manning, I've never been around a quarterback like that intellectually. And he's also bigger than life. I thought he was a shot fighter with Carolina. He didn't have his fastball anymore, but everything else he had.
Yeah, he did. I don't know, man. When it came to Cam, man, he had such an impact on my life during that time that I spent down there during that time. And I think one of the biggest lessons I learned from him was to always be myself. You know what I'm saying? And he still does that, man. If I could, like, he's done such a great job with always being like he does his thing, one pinky, one finger, one look. Like, he's been like this. He's always had this personality, and it's infectious. And when I was down there, it kind of gave me that confidence to be me. You know what I'm saying? Like, he would be dancing during practice, turned up, juiced up, and I'll be sitting there like, okay. All right. And that energy kind of like just fed off of like who he was, and it kind of just brushed off, and it made me want to come out of my shell, because I have a big personality too. But when you're on these pro teams, like, you kind of want to tone it down a little bit, but there was no tone down. Listen, when he came out to practice, it was time to go. It was like he didn't warm up. His warm up was talking. His warm up was getting everybody turned up, and he would get me turned up. I remember, man, I'll never forget, man, the day I earned his respect. We had this big run. He does like the QB receiver type thing, and he did it in Baltimore that year. And it was this hill in Baltimore, and they call it the Hell Hill or whatever like that, whatever it's called. But it was the craziest thing I've ever done. You know what I'm saying? And we did like a little workout, but we were doing a workout up this steep ass hill, right? And I don't know what it was, but that day I was turned up. And I got a drive, I got a passion, and I'm full of energy. And I beat everybody up this hill. I'm talking about, it was a long, steep hill. And I got to the top, and I'm wheezing, and I'm talking, and he turned up. Man, I'll never forget that moment, that time, man. It definitely brought the best out of me. He's got that, like, he's like he always just has this energy about him that just makes everybody better, man. And during my time there, when I was there, it just always like, I remember he bought Uggs for the whole team. Even during that time when we were in Baltimore, I was one of the last people to leave. Because I was only driving back to Philly.
Yeah.
So we go into he was like, yeah, come take this ride with me. So we took a ride, and we went to the Under Armour store. This is the first time I've ever heard anybody say this to me. So we get in the store, and he was like, yeah, just get whatever you want. And I'm looking back at him like, what you mean? Get me that? I'm like, bet. Like, so I go in there, I'm grabbing a few things. And then he was like, that's how you be. Like, that's it. So I start grabbing more stuff. It was crazy, man. Like, that was my Cam Newton moment, man. And we spent a little bit of time together, man. I remember when I had got released, he he called me. Like I was at home, and he kind of encouraged me, man. We had like a nice little friendship that we had during that time, and during that time that God has a lot like that moment. It was beautiful, man, and I was able to really like take something from it. And when everybody has this agenda or this thing that what Cam is or what he was, or man, like he was like a little superhero to me, man. He was a black quarterback that did anything he wanted out there in that football field, and his personality just made it even 10 times better. And it gave a kid like me, hope. And listen, I had hope because of him. You know what I'm saying? He was like our modern day Michael Vick. You know what I'm saying? But a bigger version. And what he did on the football field. It's funny to see how people kind of like try to like downplay who he was by what's been going on today. Because you tend to forget what somebody's done when they're no longer in the game. But his impact is very, very much stamped around the league, and the impact that he's had on different players.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking in my head right now, like top 5 quarterbacks in the league in his prime, right? He's number 1 and 2. And I think the hardest part for Cam was they ran him. I mean, they're running QB power, and he's jumping over people, and they didn't protect quarterbacks like they did now. Yeah. If Cam starts his career like he does now, right, he probably lasts longer. That's why these guys, I hate to be a young quarterback coming up. There's not that many backup quarterback spots available now. These guys are taking them. These vets are taking them, holding on to them.
They are.
They're giving them to them.
They are.
Look at Joe Flacco, man, what he's doing in Cleveland. Crazy.
Like, you look at it and you see, like, man, like it's crazy. Look at all the backup positions, man. You got Matt. I think it's a long list of veteran guys that has that position.
They're taking care of guys now too, man. I went to training camp. I told you in Minnesota. It was all about your recovery. It was all about your health. It was all about how you're going to perform on game day, which is great. And a lot of places don't operate that way. But the reason why Minnesota, in my opinion, has had success. Like I left there and I was like, man, I felt like I just got, the shit beat out of me from training camp. Yeah. But in the periods of time during the week, and I was getting ready for the games, and it was just first class. And a lot of places are, but yeah, I mean, it's a grind. What's a grind like in the CFL during training camp? Is it tough? I feel like it's like a bunch of old school guys up there, man. But
no, it's not. I mean, it's a bunch of young guys. You know what I'm saying? It's a track meet, to be honest. I'm a receiver, bro. There is ain't no chilling. You know what I mean? And like you, I think
there's never chilling for the White House.
Oh hell no, man! You saw that video with Ocho when he talk about there ain't no scrub league now. It ain't no bums up there. It's some real life.
Especially in that position.
Especially
in that position.
Yes, especially at the receiver position, man. You got, I said it on my podcast, in my last episode, man. This is the pros, man. You gotta understand, man. There's some kid that's trying to come take your spot and shoot. At the end of the day, I came and took somebody's spot. And that's how it functions. That's how pro sports works. But up there in the CFL, I mean, like it's a real life track meet, and you need to be able to run. I think that the waggle helps give an advantage and stuff like that to a certain extent. But man, I played in 22 games this year. You know what I'm saying? I played in that's including playoffs, including preseason. It's a dogfight. I played in every last game, and for me, like I work my ass off to be in that position. Though I think that when I'm training and how I do certain things, I think I put things in phases. I go phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and that's how I do my training. I've added so many different things to my bag that I'm ready for training by the time I get up there. The NFL is a lot different though, man. They have a lot more access to different things, and the facilities are a lot better. There in Winnipeg, they definitely have a lot of, we got a lot more than other teams do. And I'm going to be a free agent this year, so we're going to see how things how they play out this year.
Yeah, we'll get that in a second. I think the one thing that the mature guys can handle the minor leagues, because I love the XFL. I consider myself a mature football player. Like, you got 2 square meals. We have a hotel room we don't pay for that they pay. We travel private.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all right, what? You can't take protein bars away from the facility. You got to spend a little money. You're not really making any money enough to save it anyways. I mean, a little bit. Depends at that point of that league early on, no, right? So what's your plan next year? Got people weighing in on Twitter. Joe's weighing in on Twitter. Appreciate you listening, Joe. He said, is Rasheed still in Winnipeg? The answer is no. Contract expired.
Yeah, well, soon. I mean, I don't know. I don't like. To be honest, I went through a lot this past year, and to be honest, I really haven't been focused on it. My
Good for
biggest
you.
focus has been on my podcast. My biggest focus has been on Showtime Speaks and getting myself out there to go speak and do different things and help impact the world and impact these kids. And I've been making that transition of spending more time doing that because last year I felt myself in a place where like I thought I knew what was going to happen. I thought I had a feeling of, or I'm going to be here. I'm going to get this amount or this that, and then things didn't work out that way. And I think that I'm going into this whole thing with with my head held high and knowing I don't regret anything. And but my focus has shifted towards in this period of time right now towards things life after football and stuff like that. But there's so much football for me to be played, and I'm excited about it. I am excited in these next few months on what's going to happen. The phone is already starting to kind of start to, you start to get a little poke, and I'm training again now, and people keep asking me, and my answer is, hold on, listen, that's not my focus. I'm trying to get this business going first, and I think that's important for me right now. To really focus on that. As you can see, like the podcast is, I'm taking it to another level. And like I did an episode today, and I kind of really spoke on the new year and things that I'm looking forward to with the podcast, and kind of reiterating why I'm doing my podcast. I think that was important for me to kind of get that message across to people as well too. So I'm excited about free agency once I start shifting my mind towards it. But as of right now, it's about Showtime Speaks, not for long. You feel me? And all the stuff that, Matt Production, shout out to him, and, my new
Yeah.
co-host Kenny Reds. There's a lot of stuff going on, man, and I'm excited about.
Yeah, man. I'm so happy for you. We know each other for a while now, and then to get you in the pod game and get you involved with it and have your passion involved with some of the stuff we're doing and not for long. We're Jack, man. I appreciate you coming on. Now, before you go, I mean, I'll probably have you on. I'm going to have you on for the Super Bowl, but who do you think's going to win this MVP race here? Lamar, C-Mac, Tyreek, Purdy?
Oh man, this is interesting, man. You look at it, you analyze it. It's been changing every week. I think that it's going to come down to the end. I think that the most interesting thing is watch how it happens in the end. I think we're not going to be surprised as to who win it. Right now it looks like Lamar is in the league for it. He is Baltimore Ravens. He is Baltimore. I mean, it's a lot. It was Purdy. It was. We had the argument that Dak was the guy, and we had the argument that at one point Jalen was, and then things happened, and then Tyreek Hill was, and then it's a lot of. I think this is the best time for football right now. Because there is no clear cut. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing that's
It's a good year.
It's a great year for football.
Before you came on, we were talking about all these teams still in the hunt.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy.
This is how it's supposed to be.
NFL's got to be loving it.
This is what makes football exciting, and I think that it's going to come down to the end. I'm going to the game on Sunday, the Eagles game.
Okay.
I'm excited about. But yeah,
Jonathan Gannon coming back to town.
No, we're gonna see how things play out. But like I said about that Eagles team, man, once they get hot, they can do something. I think any team, not even just the Eagles, I think any team right now, we lost the Grey Cup to Montreal. And Montreal, had more losses than we did, and kudos to them. Shout out to them. But they got hot at the right time, and they beat two of the teams that were in it last year. And I've been trying to sit down and forgive everything that didn't happen. We lost, and that's 2 years in a row. It is what it is. But no, yeah, you look at the MVP race. I think it's up in the air.
Up in the air, he says. Showtime Speaks. Check his show out. Rasheed Bailey, appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, we're back here. Technical difficulties here on the Colin Thompson Show, Not For Long Media. Jason Myrtetuts joins us from Flyers Daily, Aji's podcast, Flyers pre- and post-game show. He does a little bit of everything. NHL, F1. He's done it all in Philly. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Have a good holiday?
I did. I ate, drank, hung out with family. cooks a freaking bomb prime rib on the Traeger, spatchcocked a turkey that we brined for 3 days. So I mean, I had a blast, man. It's weird. First holiday home since 2015. So weird.
Yeah.
Really weird. How was yours?
You'd rather be playing, but it was good, right?
Yeah, bittersweet. Exactly.
Yeah.
How was yours?
It was good. It's been, what Christmas is like with kids. It's like this crazy build up, and then poof, it's over by 9 a.m. because they want to get up at the crack of dawn. Although it was a long day on Christmas, but it was good. We had family over. We did the whole thing, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
You've been saying that a lot now, by the way, the whole thing. I listened to all the shows. That's neither here nor there. Did your son get like a new goalie mask or something this year? No, he's a skater, though. He's not a goalie, correct?
Yeah, no, he actually didn't need any equipment. He's driving now, so it's like everything's been like car related and driving related, which is like a whole new ball game. But no, he actually, we took care of all the equipment needs prior to season, so that's worked out.
There we go. Well, listen, I want to have you on today to talk about this little old hockey club called the Philadelphia Flyers that are near and dear to my heart, obviously yours as well. A club before the year that I'm texting you about and all my friends about, and the group text I'm in, like the sky's falling, and this sucks because, there's few teams that I have the pleasure I get to personally be a fan of. One is the Tottenham Hotspurs, and two is the Philadelphia Flyers. The rest of them, I love the Phillies too. I'll add them. The rest of them, because of playing in the NFL and bouncing around and knowing guys everywhere, I don't really have a team. But this team, the Flyers, now have taken off. They're friggin' fun to watch. As Tortorella says, they have balls. Like, they're just fun to watch, period. I don't know what this, half the time, right? They've been on a crazy point streak, but they're competitive. They're tough. They roll lines, and their goaltending's been great. How do you sum up the season? What are your thoughts? I mean, it's been super successful and fun.
Yeah, I mean, in a word, it would be surprising. I always talk about when you go into a sports season in any sport, whether it's the NFL, NBA, baseball, soccer, whatever, if you have a long list of things that are question marks, that is probably not a great recipe, because you need a lot of those question marks to be resolved in what you would deem as a very positive way. And when you have a lot of them, and that's just hard to do. So teams with a lot of question marks tend not to overwhelm you or surprise you in a positive way, but this team has. We went through all the question marks in the offseason, and how paramount they were, from Ivan Provorov leaving as your top minutes, top pair defenseman, to how the players are going to respond in year two, the return of Sean Couturier, how's Travis Sanheim going to come back when Torrey Krug said no. Who's going to take those minutes? Who's going to score? All of these things were huge question marks. And for the most part, they've all been answered pretty resoundingly positive. So that's been kind of the theme of the season. And you're right, they play their ass off. They just do. Torts has brought in a standard of accountability that was sorely needed. And you know what accountability is like in a locker room? Like, it can't be part-time. It's got to be all the time and for everyone, or if it's never, and if it's not, it's none of the time for no one. And he's put guys, scratched them and benched them. He benched Travis Konechny for like 11 minutes in the Pittsburgh game out in Pittsburgh. He's the team's leading scorer because he was doing some things he didn't like.
Yeah.
So he'll do those things, and I think they've surprised people. And I think the biggest surprise to me, Colin, is the change philosophically, the way they play in transition to the way they played last year. Because, and I asked Torts this, I said, have you ever had a team that was played stylistically so much more aggressive offensively year to year than this? And he's never. His teams all play stylistically basically the same. But he went to this hyper transition offense, and he's got the players to play it. And it's been, it is a fun style to watch because they're up on their ass all the time. They attack.
In the Premier League, and I've learned this through watching, is like they play on their front foot. They play on the front of their foot. They play on their toes. Like, it's these long stretch passes, and it's like, oh, here we go, another breakaway. You're like, what the hell? I just went down on my phone for a second because the puck got dumped in, and they're cycling it out of the zone, and all of a sudden, here goes Konechny on a breakaway. You can't be on your phone when you watch them.
No.
Right? That's like the number one thing to describe that team. You can't.
Yeah.
Where before you're like, all right, I'm going to be on my phone here.
Yeah, they're just going to clog each other. They're going to play between the top of the circle in the D zone and the top of the circle in the offensive zone. And it's just going to be kind of going back and forth, yo-yoing. But you're right. You just don't know when the odd man rush is going to come. And look, there's some peril that comes with that. When you attack that aggressively in the offensive zone, if a team does beat the attack, they go the other way in transition on an odd man rush. But you've got the goaltending to withstand that. Look, this league, like you see it, there is probably 2/3 of the teams in the NHL that can't get a save from a goalie. They just have no goaltending, right? And it's killing teams, whether that's
Devils,
Edmonton,
Devils.
yeah. They just have nobody to give them stops. And when you've got one guy that can give you stops, in the Flyers situation after the first 3 games that Harrison played, you got 2 guys that can give you stops, then you're going to win games. And it is an exciting, brand to watch. And I thought the most interesting thing was that Torts said, when guys like Cutter Gauthier or Matvei Michkov get here, we want to already be playing this style. That's foresight, right? And what's coming and where the league and where the game is going. So the old dinosaur, John Tortorella, and, his a lot of fans' notion is block shots and whatever when it comes to Torts and beat people up. That's not the reality of the situation. He's a very progressive coach.
The good coaches in any sport, but I'll just talk about football right now, see if anybody pops into my head, right? The older dinosaurs, if you can find a way to be archaic in the way you prepare and analyze and break down and scout, usually is good. Hiring the right strength coach, like all the right nutritionist, like this boring stuff, which is kind of archaic, the little things, the old school way, usually works great. And then having the new school twist is super healthy. You see it kind of in Detroit with Dan Campbell. He always says, we're going to bite your kneecaps off. We're going to be physical. But and Dan played tight end back in the day when tight ends really blocked. But he also has Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, where they're lighting up the scoreboard and running the ball. And so, no, it's all thing Flyers here because there's a lot to discuss. But Danny Briere, Keith Jones, do they have they, I should say, had major impact? Or is just the Torts thing finally getting guys to buy in? Is it those two? Or is it Torts and the team? Let's say that. Let's prop that question up.
I think it's a combination of everything. I mean, I thought they had buy-in. They played really hard last year. They just didn't have horses. They didn't have guys to put the puck in the net. And they played, last year was about building the foundational elements of defending and play away from the puck, which they did. But I think it's kind of all coming together. And I did my list of top 5 storylines of the calendar year 2023 in regards to the Flyers, from Torrey Krug saying no and Sanheim being here and Provorov and Hayes being shipped out, to the drafting of Michkov, to the dismissal of Fletcher, and then eventually ascension of Danny Briere, Keith Jones, and Dave Scott to Dan Hilferty, and Couturier's return. And not only that, but the return of Couturier that, statistically speaking, is the same exact Couturier that won the Selke in 1920. I mean, literally almost to the T. But the biggest thing to me is the fact that the center ice logo is no longer cut in half. And with the red line going through it, there's Flyer logos on each side of it. Now, that's kind of tongue-in-cheek. But what it is that's the throat. Mr. Snyder would have never allowed that, the logo to be cut in half. It's the revitalization of the franchise identity and the standard for which they operate. That is the difference. And that comes from Danny Briere. That comes from Keith Jones. That comes from Dan Hilferty. There was a lot of, you can have a ton of culture and you can lose it really fast. And they did. Yeah. And, a lot of fans felt disrespected, and I get why, because they were. They weren't told they mattered as much as they used to. And the organization happened to nosedive at that time. But now they got people in place that are respecting the past, not sitting there trying to repeat it from a stylistic standpoint, but be of that same standard and be recognized around the league and among pro sports in the same vein, by the way you operate, first class, the way you do things, first class, the way you treat not only your players, but their family, and their dads and their wives and their kids and their cousins, all of those things. And those are things that Keith Jones and Danny Briere and Dan Hilferty have their eye on wholeheartedly. And ultimately, it's pro sports. It comes down to winning, and the winning's going to come, and that's the player's job, and they got to draft and develop and all that. But the organization found its compass again and is conducting themselves like the Flyers and a team with high standards did for so many years.
The little things matter, which is old school, which you just talked about. Like, that's old school, because a lot of new school stuff is like, yeah, show up whatever you want, no suit, no tie, and all that, right? That's fine. Doesn't matter. Show up and play. But really, it's the underlying message of we're going to be unified in everything we do. We're going to look the same. We're going to act the same. We're going to beat to the same drum. We're going to play in the system. But it's funny, like the teams I played on, like the teams that have had the most success have the best situation for our wives on game day, right? Like, even Carolina, like we didn't have a ton of guests there, but I thought they had a really good program there. Like my wife felt comfortable going to the game, calling so-and-so. They bring you up the back way. They bring you in the box. Like there's all that stuff matters for husband and wife.
Happy wife, happy life.
And it's the same thing for your career, right? Like that's a big deal. And that's what I've heard. Listen to Missing Curfew and Chicklets and all these different guys that made these great guests on, and you get little things are like, his Flyers aren't what they used to be. I'm not talking about the wins and losses. We're talking about Schneider and how his first-class approach was great. So, what next for the team here? Now, obviously, here's the thought I thought about today. Could go Gauthier, right? Cutter, or whatever his name is.
Cutter, yeah.
I should know that. Yeah, Cutter, yeah. Could he come up by the end of the season?
Yeah, once his NCAA season ends for BC, he can step right in, sign his entry-level contract, and start playing right away. And for a player drafted where he was 5th overall and of the pedigree that he is, it's pretty standard operating procedure. It's kind of the price of doing business that you're going to burn a year of his entry-level contract, even though he's not going to get here until March. But that, that's kind of what happens. And he stayed 2 years at BC, and he's ready to make the jump. He's playing in the World Juniors right now for Team USA. And he's showing a little bit of a propensity to be able to distribute the puck on his line too, which is good. Not just a pure scorer, but he certainly is a shooter. He hasn't found a shot he hasn't liked yet. But I imagine we're going to see him whenever his NCAA season ends. There's nothing left for him to prove at the college level for where his game is. He's got the body to be able to handle jumping into the NHL. Not going to be a finished NHL product. He's still going to have a lot of things to learn and how to play away from the puck and, play with zero time and zero space and against men. But he's a guy ready to make that jump. We'll see him at the end of the year.
Maybe their trade line, free agent acquisition, because I don't see him being fired. Everybody wants to be. I was going back with a bit on Twitter about bringing Drew back. Just a little tongue in cheek, but I don't think that's going to happen either. They're probably going to sell, right? You're going to probably sell some of these players off for first-round picks, second-round picks. You may have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few guys that are interesting. Obviously, Sealer's on an expiring contract, and he's a guy that a lot of teams will like because he's not paid a lot, so he can fit on everybody's cap, bring you a lot of the elements you really want for a playoff team, which is accountability for the opposition, and he's a very well-liked teammate. He'll fit into any locker room. Same goes for Sean Walker. He's a right side guy. He's got an expiring contract as well. And then, Ristolainen's another guy, got 3 years left. So it's a little less likely to be moved. But Walker and Sealer are probably the two. But, Danny Briere's got something Chuck Fletcher hasn't had in years, and that's leverage. Like, the team's playing good. Both his players are playing good. He's got a good situation here. GM calls him and says, I'll give you this. He says, well, just hang up the phone. And then just text him after and say, when you're serious and you really want to tell me what you're willing to give up, then I'll answer the phone again. Until then, this is what you're offering me is a non-starter. He's got tons of leverage for the first time in a long time because he has a team that's playing good and those players are playing good. Their value is only going to go up.
When's Michov coming over? 2 years, 3 years? What's that look like?
I mean, his contract expires after two more of after this one. In the KHL, I know there's been kind of a hype campaign out there that the Flyers received devastating news the other day, but that's total and complete bullshit. What was reported has nothing to do with players in Michkov's situation. It's more to deter young players from going over and playing in the CHL or the AHL. he's going to fulfill his contract or maybe even leave a year early. But I'd say, worst case scenario is 2 years, and he'll be here. And I mean, he's been just absolutely lighting it up, Kyle. I mean, his points per game draft year +1 is the best in the history of the KHL. And that's higher than a guy named Ovechkin or a guy named Kucherov or a guy named Panarin. I mean, it's absurd what he's done. And he just shows the ability to score in so many different ways because he's so crafty. I don't think he's going to be a star player. I think he's going to be a superstar player. I won't say generational because I think people throw that term around way too easily, but he's got superstar written all over him. He just does.
What's the guy in Minnesota? He's had it down here. He's like that too. Yeah. He's like, yeah, he's nutty. All right. So lastly here again, Jason Myrtetuts is here. G's Podcast Flyers Daily. Your kind of prediction, like how's this going to shape up? I know it's year, still plenty of hockey left. I don't see the team skidding per se. How are they going to finish up the season? And if and when they get in the playoffs, what could they do?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of questions still. When you look at is the play and minute load for Travis Sanheim sustainable? Are Morgan Frost and Owen Tippett going to have the second half or post-Christmas that they had last year? You look at, is Sam Ersson going to be able to hold up? And, Carter Hart's dealing with a health issue. I'm not sure what it is, but it sounds something like gastrointestinal. How much does that affect him going through the remainder of this season? And do you get that if he has to be out a while he tries to get things under control, can Ersson answer that call? And then, Couturier's played 31 games. He's been great. His numbers through 31 this year are identical to the numbers in 1920 when he had a Selke winning year. Literally 23 points that year, 8 goals, 15 assists. This year he's got 9 goals and 14 assists. Only he's playing about 25 seconds more per game this season than he did then, and he missed 21 months of hockey. It's astounding. But there are some questions. The schedule gets tougher. And the big thing to me, Kyle, is how do they react in a playoff race in this division, which is you lose 2 games in a row and some of the teams you're battling with win a couple in a row. You go from 2nd to 7th in like the blink of an eye. How do you respond to that? So they'll have a lot of the hard travel out of the way once they get home from this trip, where they're in Vancouver tonight. They'll be in Seattle tomorrow, and then Calgary and Edmonton. They'll have pretty much all their West Coast travel done. So they'll be in the Eastern Corridor, train rides, buses, and some flights, but nothing major. So that's good. They don't look like a team that's going to fall off, but it is tight. So we'll have to see how they handle those situations. And if guys like Frost, Tippett, and when Cates comes back, if they can step up like they did in the second half last year in games that mean a lot more, then they're going to be in a really good situation.
We'll see what happens. We'll definitely have you on in the race. Jason Myrtetuts, appreciate you joining the show. See what the Flyers do tonight. What are they, 10 o'clock puck drop out in the West Coast?
Well, tonight and tomorrow. Friggin' late
Rough.
night.
You're a
game.
late night guy anyways, though. You're
not that late. I'll get to bed at like 4 tonight by the time I'm done post game and all the crap I got to do after. So it's going to be a couple of late nights. It'll be over.
It delays my bedtime. Now I'll watch the first period or second period and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I got to watch the third. It's a good game. And that's too. Now I don't have to work and talk about it like you do, but.
Well, it's a holiday week. Can't they, they're on the West Coast. Can we start a little earlier? Like just an hour, like 9 o'clock would be fine.
Kids are off school. Start the game at 6.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you play in San Jose, I tell you, these people in San Jose, they should be locked up for what they do. They started a game in San Jose at 10:30, 2 days after daylight savings. So that's really like our biological clock is like 11:30 at night. I'm like, you people are just evil. And that's what they did.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I wasn't happy about it.
Wow.
Flyers lost and gave them their first win, the whole thing. But yeah, not happy.
That was the whole thing. Yeah. That's where they went on the skid.
Yeah. Well, since then they're like 14-3-2.
I know. And
they've
just been fun to watch. So, Jason Myrtetuts, coming on, brother.
Cool. Have a good holiday.
You too, brother. All right, Jack. Good stuff there. We powered through the technical difficulties. The people laughing at us on LinkedIn. Thanks for laughing at us, Rudy. Appreciate you, pal. Any comments or questions are encouraged and love to answer some of yours if you're ready to, if you're ready to chime in. I appreciate it. All right, Jack. So technical difficulties plowed through again. Everything here brought to you by the Fudge Kitchen, Chip and Fudge and sweet treats across the country. Our friends at Wealth Advisory Services. If you don't know them, you should. WealthAdvisoryServices.com, located in Doylestown, Cape May, New Jersey. They are the best in the business when it comes to just financial help. Been working on some things personally, some things for the future currently as we speak, and they've done just an amazing job helping me through some things. Again, check them out. Wealth Advisory Services, Doylestown and Cape May, but they work with clients across the country. My buddies in college football, NFL football, mom and pop shop turned, big time, if you will. And they just work with everybody from businesses to personal families. They've been huge to us. Wealth Advisory Services.com. Jackie Boo, what's next for us here as we finish up? I think we have some questions, I guess you would say, that you're going to read through. So people submitted some questions to us, and I'm going to answer them, I guess. Let's do it.
Yeah. So the first one we got is, what is the best Christmas gift that you got as a player in the NFL?
Oh, it's right behind me. Ian Thomas, right here. This amazing piece of artwork. I've gotten bottles of booze, bottle of wine. Trying to think. I've gotten a wallet. Again, Ian Thomas. Shout out to Ian Thomas. He's the best. He's one of my favorite teammates. One of my favorite friends in the world. Super giving. Guy that came from absolute, not a rougher childhood, if you will, and he's the most giving, nicest, kindest, great dude. So I would say this right here, Jack. That's my best for sure. And awesome. Ian gave it to all the coaches in our tight end room and all the tight ends. The chalk, it's so cool.
What would you say is the best advice to a high school athlete that's looking to play sports in college?
Wow. That's a good one. I would say this. There's a lot of people that think they can play Division I, and they can. They can, even though they may be a Division II or Division III player. If they have the finances and the grades, and this is where the grades come in, you should walk on. You should walk on to these big schools. If you can get into Penn State, if you can get into Michigan, if you can get into Colorado State, or you can get into New Mexico State, Temple, Delaware, go walk onto the team. The amount of connections that you're going to make through that network of playing big-time college football, whether you play a snap or not, are substantially larger at a bigger school than you would be at a smaller school. Now, if you want to play and you want to start and you want to do all that stuff, go do it. But some of my best friends in the world are some of the guys that walked on to Temple, walked on to Florida. They played on special teams maybe. Some of them earned scholarships and worked their way into the NFL. Hassan Reddick was one of them. So to me, that would be my advice to those that want to play. Like, go play at a level higher than you think you can and go walk onto the team. You get treated like a Division I player. You get, again, if you can financially afford to do this, there's a lot of that now, and you're gambling on yourself too to get a scholarship. So, no, it's a great question. Forget who submitted it, but that would be my advice. And if go do it. For those that are not considering it, I'm a good high school athlete. Should I play in college? Go do it for sure, because it's life changing. Those connections in sports, it gives you lessons that you're going to learn at 19, 20, and 21 instead of when you have your job at 30. How to go talk to your boss, how to go talk to your head coach. You did something wrong, you got to take ownership and move forward. Like, you got to learn that at 30, you're going to learn it at 22, so you don't have to learn it at 30s. And a lot of those lessons are learned in sports. What else you got, Jack?
What is your biggest pet peeve in the gym?
Oh, wow. So when we were doing these questions today, I was thinking about it, and boom, today in the gym, man. Again, I'm not a big public gym guy because I train at all the gyms I've been able to, fortunately, teams I've been able to play for. So, as I'm getting to the public gym lifestyle here, the worst thing is when people are like, say you're like going to a dumbbell rack, right? And somebody's doing curls. They take the weights off the rack. They back up one step and do the curls right in front of the rack. You're trying to get in there and get stuff for your workout. So that really bothers me. Like, be courteous. Like, Move back. Take a couple steps back. Go over in a corner, or just get out of the way so people can get access to the weights. So that's my biggest pet peeve. The gym etiquette stuff, we've done that on the same Boner show or my show, whatever it was hysterical. The guys that hit the shower, steam, the whole nine, which I love to do too. And then they go sit like on the leather couch with their towel on. Like, dude, just put your clothes on and then go sit on the couch. Yeah, that would be my gym etiquette stuff, Jack.
What would you say is your biggest pet peeve on social media?
This one's for you, Jack. I personally submitted this question. What are you pissed about, Jack? What rubs you wrong, buddy?
People who go after people on social media for things, mainly in the sports world, for things they cannot control. Specifically, Josh Berman, he and Michael Mursky, who do Next Network. Josh does the Burns and Berman part of our network, him and Connor Burns. So they had Hollywood Brown. So like every year they do like this 24-hour stream or whatever, and they were live streaming for the Ravens-Niners games because Josh and Michael are big Ravens fans. And again, these kids work their butts off. They like live stream like every broadcast. They'll do like random bowl games. They do like D2 football. They do spotter charts. It's crazy. So they prep their questions. They do everything great. So they had Hollywood Brown on, and Hollywood Brown was talking about something with Greg Roman, a tweet he had like 2 some years ago. So Josh tweeted out the video, and again, it's a good clip. Like, they ask good questions. Now they got this kid, Wee Hoopin, in there. Wee Hoopin's a big TikTok personality. He's like 1 million followers almost. He's just like, I don't even know how to describe him, but he's a character. So, but everybody, they posted the video. Video went viral, as probably expected from the comments. And people were just clowning Josh and Michael for being young. Like, what is Michael doing? Or what is Hollywood Brown doing with these like Call of Duty kids? Like these, like they're 11. Like, and these are not just random heads. These are significant people on Twitter with tens of thousands of followers, just immediately pointing out Josh and Michael's age and just discrediting them for their age, which is ridiculous. And it's like the two of them did nothing wrong. They asked good questions. It clearly went viral because Hollywood explained himself very well and in detail about it. And that just some stuff like that rubs me the wrong way. Like, these kids do a great job, like, and you're just going to discredit them. Like, they can't control their 20 and 19 or 16, however old Michael and Josh are. Like, they can't control that. It's just, that's what really grinds my gears.
I love, also, I'll say this too. Go back to school, go to college, all that stuff matters, but the lessons you're learning here are lessons you will not get in college. Like, for those guys that were getting ripped on Twitter, like, toughness, the number one attribute, period, to make it in this world. Like, it's it. Not being smart or whatever. It's toughness, because you got to be able to take it. You got to be able to give it. You got to be able to move on. You got to, as my mom would say, keep your eyes on your own paper. So that was my response to you when you were all wound up about it. And I do. They're part of our Not For Long media network. I feel bad for the guys. But hey, because of everybody blowing up their spot, they got like 300,000 views on the thing. So like, at the end of the day, like, hey man, shoot your shot, have fun. People are out here just trying to make a living, have some fun, and get by. So yeah, I would think for me, the social media thing is like, listen, if you're a former player, you have a deep knowledge of your profession, right? Deep knowledge. You can draw from opinion based off of things you saw that are fact when you played. But if you're not, and you're in the media, that's awesome. It's great. My best friends are people that are in media that never put on a helmet in their lives. There's nothing wrong with that. But try your best if you're in that situation. And this is not everybody. This is the 1%ers, right? Like, people I've seen on TV, like, give us something that's got, I'm trying to say this politely. How do I say it? Give us some fact. Give us some juice. Like, I listen to Coward because I like the way he talks about, okay, here's their interceptions. Here's their QBR. Here's the history. Here's the past. Kyle Shanahan this. Like, come up with, give us something other than like, well, I think this. It's like, well, why? We know why Bart Scott thinks that you need to be able to tackle to win football games. We played linebacker for the Jets. But like, if you didn't play linebacker for the Jets, like, you got to grind. I feel bad, but you got to grind more. That would be my only pet peeve, Jack, is like, don't just throw random backs up there. And PFF, I don't get me started on them. Don't get me started on them, Jack. So anything else we got?
No, a few notes here. I don't know if you want to introduce this or me. I mean, do you have any sort of things that are like the elephant in the room in the sports world this week?
Oh, yeah,
Anything
the
that
elephant
you've
in the
kind of
room.
noticed?
Yeah, elephant in the room, Jack. Kind of a segment I thought of today. I think the elephant in the room is like Baker Mayfield's the comeback player of the year, right? Like he's having a better version than Tom Brady in 2022 of the season. He's having a year better than Matt Stafford statistically, a year better than Josh Allen statistically, 27 TDs, 6 INTs, I believe it was, 8 INTs, 27 TDs, 8 INTs. You got media posting videos of him throwing balls over people's heads in OTAs, which happens all the time to every quarterback. And here we are, Baker Mayfield is up for comeback player of the year. And there's some players that had great years. There's players that have overcome tremendous injury. And I don't really even know who's up for it, but I know this, that guy should be in the race. I played with him in Carolina. He's tough. He's smart. He works hard. His teammates love him. That's one thing about Baker. Everybody loves Baker. The outside world may not. The other team may not. The media may not. But listen, Baker's a dude now. And Baker hopefully signs a nice deal there, and a couple-year deal in Tampa. Him and his wife are expecting a new child, I believe in the spring or summer here. So I'm happy for Baker. I'm happy for his family. I'm happy for a guy that was, cut by, didn't get re-signed by the Rams, traded to Carolina, got cut by Carolina, got pushed out in Cleveland after winning a playoff game there, having a lot of success. So happy for Baker. To me, he should be the comeback player of the year, Jack. That's the elephant in the room in the NFL. Like, what's the obvious thing? What's here that no one's addressing? It's Baker Mayfield is probably the new face of the franchise in Tampa, and I think he's done a damn good job with it. That's my thoughts. Fun show today. Super fun show. Going to a game, going to an event, going to a concert. SeatGeek, promo code Colin Thompson. We went long. We started at 5. We're ending at 6:20, but this is kind of a new thing we're working. We want to work the kinks out before the new year and get out here. Probably going to be doing these Tuesdays at 5 o'clock before my serious show at 7 o'clock. Do an hour show, get an hour break, and then rip it up and do another show with my boy Alec Ingold. So fun stuff here. Again, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Thanks to Rasheed Bailey that joined the show. Thanks to everyone who texted, Rudy and all the great people on Twitter, Joe, that were reaching out to us. All that's showing up here on our StreamYard, and those that tuned in on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, just trying some new stuff on here. So thanks for all our sponsors. Appreciate everybody tuning into all our shows at Not For Long Media. Check out our website, notforlongmedia.com. Thanks to Jack and our team. Appreciate you guys. Have a great night.